is enlightenment something where once you open the door, it never really closes? Or can you, let's say, within those four stages, is there something where you can go back and forth between the stages and then, or maybe even become completely ignorant of the truth? Or is this something where it's like a permanent truth that resides in your mind?
Yes, there are the early school, which I am a member of, the Theravada, the sources from the Pali Canon, are very clear. The Buddha talks, it's non-regressive. It can't, there's no regress from that. The moment you have your first vision, you can't go back, you can't lose it. And it will take various people certain amounts of time for it to develop fully. Some people will go very fast from that first glimpse to final vision, and some will take a considerable length of time, even a few lifetimes. But it's not reversible. It's irreversible. It's something you cannot lose. Something, an illusion. Now this is something, some of the later schools, and many, 1,000 years after, have various disputes about that, but there's no inconsistency in the early suttas about that. I want to sort of make it similar to childhood development. There's a psychologist, famous psychologist named Piaget, French psychologist. He's a child psychologist, and he very carefully looked at the stages of development of children. And there's a certain age when you're about 7 or so, or 7 or 8, that you suddenly grasp the law of conservation. And before that, you don't. So he sets a couple of glasses on the table, a short, fat one and a tall, thin one. And then he pours Kool-Aid into each one. The favorite, he asks, what's your favorite Kool-Aid? So the 6-year-old says, cherry Kool-Aid. So he pours it full in both. And then he asks, which one do you want? And they'll take the tall one. Then he says, that's great. So then he takes the short one, fills it to the brim, and pours it into the tall one. And it goes right up to the top. Then he takes the tall one, he pours it into the short, fat one, it goes right up to the top. He does this a couple of times right in front of him, right? And then he sets it out there and he says, now which one do you want? They take the tall one. Why do you take the tall one? It's got more in it. Just after watching, poured back and forth, it's bigger. So they can't process this. But when they get to about 8, they know that if it filled up both glasses, there's the same amount in both ones. So then they could say either one is the same. It's the same. That is an awakening of kind of a view of reality that you have in the natural stages of maturity. And this is kind of like the first stage of enlightenment. You suddenly see this. You see clearly the impermanent nature of things, that everything just passes away. You can't grasp, you can't make anything stable. It's all, and you look into yourself and you see that your very self is like that. Everything you thought you were is also a flow of thoughts, of feelings, of endless changing, swirling. That river of events is what you are. You're not a thing. You're a series of events. This undoes a whole natural way of thinking. We naturally think of ourselves as a stable entity, and this is in theistic religions. They often have a description of the soul as an indestructible monad that travels through time unchanged. In order to be eternal, it's got to be this unchanging thing. And this, when you look in, you don't find anything like this. So this is the direct insight you have, and that time you realize that this is what the Buddha is saying. So you now have you don't doubt what the Buddha is saying because you just saw it yourself. So it's not, your faith in the Buddha is not just a blind faith. It's that you came across the same realization, and now you don't have any doubts about that, because when you looked, you saw the same thing. Change. Nothing stable, nothing solid, change.